Now, it's no secret that people have a hidden agenda against Sophie Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham has become the new punching bag for the WNBA. And me personally, I feel like it's wrong of them to go at Sophie every chance they get. They got mad at Sophie for the finger pointing. Ain't nobody want to license that. They got mad with Sophie for calling out these streaming AI things with the AI forms. Then
she calls out a data center deal, and suddenly she's the villain of the league. That's the story right now, and it's only getting stranger from here.
Now, people mad at Sophie Cunningham for calling out men's athlete wanting to participate in women's sports. Yes, we're still talking about this. This is a thing. Now, Sophie Cunningham has become the latest person to speak out against men athletes being able to compete against women in sports, which is very, very...
Now, stack that on top of this. Sophie Cunningham didn't just take heat for pointing fingers at league business decisions. She stepped into the middle of the most combustible topic in women's sports right now: whether men who identify as women should be allowed to compete against them. And once she said it out loud, the reaction split the internet down the middle. Some people are calling her a hero. Others are calling her something a lot worse. We're going to get into exactly what she said, word for word. But first, you need to understand why ESPN, of all outlets, decided this was worth an exclusive feature. Because that decision alone tells you how big this got.
So ESPN released an article today, probably like an hour ago, talking about Sophie and this whole situation with men's athlete. Shout out to Clay Travis. He stated Sophie Cunningham just became one of the first current American female pro athletes to come out against men playing in women's sports. In a profiled article by ESPN. Good for her, rock star. Many others should follow. She's the Megan Rapinoe.
Clay Travis put it plainly. Sophie Cunningham is one of the first current American female pro athletes to publicly come out against men competing in women's sports. And he said it in reaction to an ESPN profile that dropped within the last hour of this video going up. That's not a hot take from a random account. That's ESPN, a mainstream outlet that rarely touches this subject with a 10-foot pole, deciding Sophie Cunningham's stance was newsworthy enough to build a full profile around. Travis went further, calling her the anti-Megan Rapinoe. Whether you agree with that label or not, it tells you where the battle lines are being drawn in this league right now, and Sophie is standing right in the middle of them.
It's being reported that you say she's a MAGA Barbie, as some corners of the internet have taken to calling her projections. She says because what she looks like and where she's from. She'll weigh in on how to protect women's sport. She says because she's in the world and feels qualified to speak on the world, I got a lot of negative feedback about me hating.
Here's where it gets personal for her. In her own words to ESPN, she said she got a lot of negative feedback, painting her as someone who hates trans people, and her response was direct. She never once said that. That distinction matters, because it's the difference between a policy position and a personal attack. And right now, those two things are getting mixed together every single day in her mentions. She's not hiding from the conversation. She's trying to correct the record in real time in a national outlet, while the algorithm keeps feeding her the worst version of what people think she said.
That she says, I think that I am here to extend love, but I also think with that love is truth, being honest, and I want to protect young girls in a locker room or young girls in a sport who shouldn't have to go against biologically men.
Then she said the part that's actually driving this whole story. She wants to protect young girls in locker rooms, in sports, from having to compete against biological men. That's the sentence everyone is either praising or attacking her for right now. But before we get to why that one quote has made her the WNBA's most talked about non-Caitlin Clark storyline this month, there's a number buried in this same article that nobody's talking about yet, and it changes how you should read everything else here. We're getting to it.
Loving Love her or hate her, Sophie Cunningham won't be ignored. This is the article right here that they did on Sophie Cunningham. This article came out today. As you guys can see here, there's pictures here with Sophie Cunningham. And I believe this is where the viewership number came from, 3.2 million, more than Caitlin Clark. I told y'all, Sophie Cunningham is going to be bigger than Caitlin because of what she stands for. That's just how I feel.
Here it is. The viewership number tied to this Sophie Cunningham coverage reportedly hit 3.2 million, more than some of the numbers pulled by Caitlin Clark content this season. Sit with that for a second. In a league where Caitlin Clark has been treated as the only guaranteed ratings driver for 2 straight years, Sophie Cunningham, a bench player turned enforcer turned lightning rod, is pulling numbers that rival the face of the franchise. That's not an accident, and it's not just controversy for controversy's sake. People are actually watching what she says, which means the league has a genuine second storyline on its hands, whether it wants one or not.
Shout out to Sophie. She's from my home state here in Missouri. Now, Sophie Cunningham played basketball in her day. She played for Mizzou. And is she a hero? Long before Sophie Cunningham was Caitlin Clark teammates, Whisper Clark's enforcer, or had even heard the name Caitlin Clark, all questions was asked. And depending on the day, discourse answered in regards to Sophie Cunningham.
And this is the part that gets buried every time this story gets told. Sophie Cunningham was in this league, grinding, long before most casual fans had ever heard Caitlin Clark's name. She played college ball, built her reputation the hard way as a bench player who fought her way into relevance, and became known as Clark's on-court enforcer only after years of already being a known quantity in this league. This isn't a manufactured persona riding someone else's wave. It's a career that predates the wave entirely, and that context changes how you should read every headline calling her a distraction.
Because this talks about the MAGA part. Because we know that they like to call her the MAGA Barbie. Now, here it is. Now, the article goes on to say, but she also insists that none of this is some Rosetta Stone to unlocking the true nature of her political worldview. I'm very much in the middle. I agree with things on both sides, disagree with things on both sides, and that's all I've ever said. And my political beliefs.
Now, here's where the internet tried to box her in, and where she pushed back hardest. They started calling her the MAGA Barbie, a label that's followed her through half this article. And her response was not what you'd expect from someone trying to lean into that identity. She said she's very much in the middle, agrees with things on both sides, disagrees with things on both sides, and that's the entirety of what she's ever said about her own politics. Read that again. She never claimed a party. She never endorsed a side. The label got attached to her anyway, and once it stuck, it became the lens everyone views her through, regardless of what she actually says.
But people love to assume. People are assuming louder now. So loud that for Cunningham is background noise that there has been hazy. There, but indeceivable. There, but she has all. Whoever wrote this article is ass, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. She's already forgotten it's there at all. You said there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
And that's the mechanism worth understanding here, because it's not unique to Sophie Cunningham. People assume, then the assuming gets louder, and eventually the assumption becomes the story instead of the actual quote. According to the profile, she has, by count, addressed this directly multiple times on the record, and it keeps getting drowned out anyway. That's not a Sophie Cunningham problem. That's what happens to any athlete who says something that doesn't fit neatly into a pre-approved narrative in 2026.
Viewership, man. Caitlin Clark has broken another viewership record. So as of right now, Caitlin Clark, 2.5 million views for the New York Liberty game, peaking at 3 million, making it the second most watched WNBA game since 2000. Nothing but Caitlin Clark, the needle mover, does surprise me just another day for the queen, and the league still doesn't promote Caitlin Clark like they should. Only behind the wait for it, Fever versus Aces with 2.64 million viewers on.
Let's pivot, because while this was unfolding, the league's other headline was writing itself in real time. Caitlin Clark just broke another viewership record. Her game against the New York Liberty reportedly pulled 2.5 million viewers, peaking at 3 million, making it the second most watched WNBA game since the year 2000. That puts her behind only the Fever Aces matchup, which averaged 2.64 million. Two different players. Two completely different reasons people can't stop watching this league right now. And both of them happening in the same month.
Caitlin Clark is the common denominator in every single top watch game outside of one since she's joined the league. No matter what hate train is thrown her way, people still tune in and watch. That's all the networks care about. Be ready for 50 nationally televised games next year. That is the absolute truth when it comes to Caitlin Clark and this whole situation.
And here's the part the league office has to be paying attention to. Clark has been the common denominator in nearly every top-watched game since she entered the league, with one exception. It doesn't matter what criticism gets thrown at her, people still tune in every single time, because at the end of the day, that's the only metric that actually determines TV deals and expansion money. Reports suggest next year could bring as many as 50 nationally televised games. If that number holds, this league is being reshaped in real time by two players who couldn't be having more different seasons, on the court and off it.
But just like I stated, what stuck out more than anything is the growing hate that Sophie Cunningham has been enduring this month of July. And we're supposed to be celebrating 250 years of the country this month. And to me, as patriotic as Sophie is, you would think she'll be getting more love. Would it been 250 years of the US of A, and she's always showing love to the country. She always showing love to my home state of Missouri.
But here's the contrast that actually explains why this month has felt different. This is the same month the country marked 250 years since its founding, and Sophie Cunningham has been one of the loudest, most consistent voices publicly celebrating that anniversary, tying it back to her home state and her own identity as an athlete. You'd think that alignment would be earning her more goodwill right now, not less. Instead, this has reportedly been one of her most heavily criticized stretches of the entire season. That gap between how publicly patriotic she's been and how much backlash she's still absorbing is the actual story underneath the headlines. It's not really about data centers or even about the sports policy stance anymore. It's about what happens to an athlete once the internet decides she's a symbol instead of a person.
Before, whenever I was up there, she was showing love to the fans. I don't get why people dislike her so much. You know, she made a name for herself as a bench player, and anybody that's hating on somebody for wanting to better themselves in their career, you is a hater. So maybe you should look in the mirror and ask yourself the question. You know what I'm saying? She ain't copy nobody like all the other people do. Copy people all the damn time. She came in here and did it her way, doing it herself.
And that's really the question worth sitting with once you strip away all the noise. She didn't ride in on hype. She built her name as a bench player who put in the work to become a starter, an enforcer, and now a national talking point, all without copying anyone else's persona, without a gimmick, without borrowing someone else's spotlight. She did it her way, on her own timeline, and the criticism she's absorbing right now is happening precisely because she refuses to soften that. So here's the real question for you. Is Sophie Cunningham getting hammered because of what she actually said, or because she's become an easy target for a league still figuring out how to handle its most outspoken voices? Drop your take in the comments, hit like if this broke it down for you, and subscribe, because both of these stories are moving fast and neither one is finished.